Hello and welcome back to the Training Tom podcast, the place where I share how I am training myself to navigate through life. And in today's episode, I'm going to be talking a little bit about community. So let's dive into it. Now, I'm going to be honest to start off with. I have been putting this episode off, and I don't really know why, but this episode has taken me a while to record it. I've been thinking of recording this episode not for very long. It's only been in my mind for the past week or so, but every day I've come round to record it, I've just put it off, and I don't really know why I've been putting it off. I don't really know. It's not like I'm going to be talking about anything too deep or anything too personal, so there's nothing strange about what I'm going to be saying. I've just been putting it off. I'm hoping that this is still going to be a useful episode for everyone. And this episode came about after spending the weekend with my mates and having a good celebration a few weekends ago. I was very fortunate to be a groomsman at one of my best mates' weddings, and actually the person he was getting married to, I would also consider her to be one of my best mates as well. They're more than friends, actually. They are family. They're like a brother and sister to me. And I was very fortunate to be involved within that process of, the stag do's, then the whole wedding day. We also met up the day before, and it really made me think about the power of community. And it also made me reflect a little bit on the episode that I recorded and released last week about how you need to celebrate your own successes, no matter how big or small they are. Because it actually got me thinking about how celebrating other people's successes can bring you just as much joy, if not more joy, than celebrating your own successes. And I think at this point, it's a very good time to say congratulations to the happy couple. You know who you are, and I'm sure you've had an absolutely fantastic time on your mini moon the past week or so. But the wedding day was amazing. The day before was such a great laugh. In fact, the whole weekend was such a great laugh with great people, great food, great energy, and just a proper example of how to celebrate two amazing people. And that's what made me think of this episode of community and how finding the right community can be so powerful. Not just for your mental health maybe, but also just being able to celebrate with people that you love and people that mean a lot to you, people that have been there when or might be there in the future during your ups and your downs. And I know that with the group of people that I was with last week, I have known most of that group, the main group that I socialise with. I've known them collectively. If I added up the totals from all of the people that I know in that group and how long I've known all of them for, it must be getting on for 80 to 100 years in total, that is. But individually, I've known each of them for at least a decade. So they have seen the highs, they've seen the lows, they've seen everything in between. We've celebrated so well in the past. We've commiserated and been there for each other in the challenging moments. And to be able to see this couple get married and have an amazing party throughout the whole weekend was just brought so much joy to brought, so much joy to my face, to my body, to my mind. I was so happy and so present, or I feel like I was so happy and so present throughout that whole weekend. And that is what I think is one of the first things that I want to mention, is when you find the right group of people, when you're with that group of people, nothing else seems to matter. You're just so present in the moment. You enjoy being in their company all of the time, or all of the time that you are together, you enjoy being in their company. And it's effortless. I found the wedding weekend absolutely effortless because of the people that I was with. I didn't think about anything else but simply having a good time with people that I love. And yeah, it was just a fantastic weekend. And I think, like I was saying, that is what the power of finding the right community can do for people, is it's effortless. And it also made me think about being present as well. How it is so important to be present in those big moments, especially when you're sharing it with people that you care so much about. That, yeah, being present and being in the moment means that you can soak all of it in. I had so much fun last weekend that I couldn't pick out a single moment that was more fun than any other. And even listening to some songs during the week brought back a memory that, not necessarily that I'd forgotten about, or just something that it sparked a memory from that weekend. And it was, just so much joy. And I think being present throughout that whole weekend, I didn't think about work at all. I didn't think about my training either. I didn't think about anything other than spending quality time with people that I care about. Getting to know a few more people as well, some of the close family and friends of my mates. And yeah, it was just being present with that group of people. I didn't think about anything else. I didn't have any worries or concerns. I've spoken a lot about mental health on this podcast in the past. And I didn't have any worries, any concerns throughout the whole weekend. I just had fun. I felt joy and genuine happiness the entire weekend. And it was fantastic. Yeah, it was so lovely just to be present and to focus on the happy couple, to focus on making sure they had the most amazing day possible, and trying to create the atmosphere where that happened. And I don't want to take away from the amazing venue that they picked and all of the people that were involved in that wedding, but I think as a group of people, we all smashed it when it came to creating a positive atmosphere and an atmosphere of celebration for this couple. And when it came round to thinking about community, kind of moving away from the wedding celebrations over that weekend and thinking more broadly, it made me also think about social media. And I've watched the adolescence documentary or docuseries on Netflix, and that reminded me of the dangers of social media, or the challenges that might come with social media. And I've spoken before on the podcast about the challenges of social media. But I think when you find a good community on social media and you are present and you celebrate other people's success, that can be a fantastic way to utilize social media in a very positive way. I've done both things, where I've looked at social media and not used it in a negative way, but I felt very negative having been on social media. But then I've also used social media in a very positive way, where I've actively engaged. I've celebrated other people's successes and really tried to champion good work that people do. And then when I finish using social media for however long it might be, I would love to say, oh, when I finish using social media for that 10 minutes, but when I finished using social media for that half an hour, possibly even a couple of hours, if I've used it in a way where I've been celebrating people's accomplishments, when I've been celebrating their successes, when I've been trying to be very positive and actively encourage other people, it makes me feel joy as well. And that's really what sparked this episode, was a combination of thinking about the wedding ceremony and the wedding weekend for two of my best mates, and being able to celebrate in person with great people, with a community that I am a part of, but also how we can use community in different ways to bring us joy, to celebrate our successes, but also be able to celebrate other people's successes as well. Another thing that I want to talk about with community is that recently, at the start of this year, I joined a new running club, and I haven't been along to that running club anywhere near as much as I would like to, but just because of the way that work has fell and the way that my training has fell sometimes. But again, the power of a community of like-minded people can be incredible. I went along to the run club on Thursday last week, and I have to admit, I wasn't feeling amazing that day. Work had been quite slow. I just generally had very little motivation. But through my past experiences, I knew that by getting out of the house, by speaking to good people, like-minded people, I would feel better as a result of that. So I got changed, put my running shoes on, kind of plodded down to the running club. And as soon as I got there, in fact, before I got there, I bumped into somebody on my way that's from the running club and instantly felt that joy again. We started chatting about some of the challenges that we've been doing, some of the training that we've both been doing, and just catching up because it had been a few weeks. And it, again, it really affirmed to me the power of finding different communities. Because for a long time, I had maybe one community, or maybe like a couple of communities, but not anything too different and too dissimilar from each other. But I also think that is a key thing to remember, is that we can have different communities for different things. I've spoken about my group of mates before, and they are very much, they're more than mates. They are very much family to me. The groom said in his speech, chosen family, at the wedding ceremony the other weekend. And it's very much that. We are chosen family. And that's amazing, because I know that I can talk to those boys about anything. And I don't talk to them about anything sometimes. And I know that that's something that I need to get better at. And it's something that I am working on. But I also know those who I can talk to, and not who I can talk to. No, I know those boys, and I know the community that we have built as a group. But we do have different interests. You know, the different exercise challenges that I do aren't necessarily something that the boys or the people in that group will want to do. So yes, I can talk to them about those different challenges, and we have a laugh and a joke about those challenges, which keeps me grounded and keeps me, humble, shall we say. But it's also great that I found this running community where I go along to a running club and we do talk about the different challenges that we're doing, the different events, why we're doing those different events, and the we can just dive into exercise and training and all of those different things that in small doses I love to talk about. We can talk about, mindset and bits like that. I've also got my work community where I speak very much about the work that we do, obviously. I've got my family, my blood family, my relatives. And again, you could consider that to be a community. But what I'm trying to say is you don't have to have one community for everything. This is something that I've learned perhaps over the past couple of years. I don't have to have one community for everything. I can have different communities for different things and broaden that circle. And I have to admit, a couple of years ago, that was quite a daunting prospect because it meant meeting new people. It meant having to put myself out there and embrace the discomfort of engaging with a new group of people, with talking to new people, trying to find different ways to communicate with different people and different communities. But I'm so glad that I did that because I feel so much more joy from doing that. I know that I can talk to a range of different people about a range of different things. Social media, you could say, is another community as well. And finding those communities might be challenging to start off with. But I feel very fortunate in the area of the country that I live that I have been able to find those communities relatively easily. And it might just simply be, if you are somebody that feels like you're lacking community at the moment, it might simply be searching for a local sports club in your area. If you're interested in running, finding a local run club. Run clubs are booming at the moment and they're popping up all over the place all of the time. It could just be as simple as going along to your local park run. And that reminds me of something that happened this morning. My friend Ben and I, if you follow my Instagram and follow my Strava, you'll know that we've been going to different park runs around the country and particularly around East Anglia. And we've so far I've been to 80 different park runs. He's been to 81 different park runs as of today. And parkrun is another fantastic community for people. The parkrun that we went to on Saturday, weekend just gone, they were celebrating their 10th anniversary. And they went through a list of achievements that have happened in that time. The volunteers that they've had, they got people that went to the very first park run to put their hand up. And there were, half a dozen people out of 200 odd people that were there. But over a course of 10 years, those people that had been along to parkrun found a community. They found something that they felt a part of and found joy in attending every single week. For some of those people, maybe it is the only social interaction they have throughout the week. Yet they found their place. They are present in that moment for the half an hour, the hour. Maybe they stay for a coffee and a cake afterwards. So the 2 hours in total, they are at parkrun. But that community that they have found, and parkrun is such a fantastic community of joyous people that just love running or love volunteering, because parkrun takes an army of volunteers. And every week there are volunteers for those parkruns. Every week there is somebody who takes time out of their day to again be part of a community that they feel a part of and that they enjoy and they've embraced. So yeah, a lot about community there. And one of the big things, combining this week's episode and last week's episode together, is that it reminds me that I can't do everything on my own. For a very long time, I've been a very individual person. I don't even know if that makes sense. A very individual person. Yeah, a very independent. There we go. A very independent person. And it reminds me that, yes, as much as I want to celebrate the successes that I have, it also reminds me that I can't celebrate those things on my own. I can't achieve those things on my own. I don't feel like I could have the success in my training and potentially even in my career. In fact, I know I haven't had the success I wouldn't have had the success, in inverted commas, in my career if it wasn't for people looking out for me, people telling me of different roles that were coming up, people taking a chance on me, people providing me with mentorship and support. So, yeah. The thing that I want to finish on around this community aspect and celebrating other people's success, and it links back to something that I mentioned earlier in the episode with the TV series on Netflix, Adolescence. The writer and the producer of that series, Stephen Graham, mentioned in an interview that one of the things he meant, or one of the reasons he created that series, was to remind people of the phrase, "It takes a village to raise a child." It takes a village to raise a child, not just a family, not just a household, but an entire village, a community of people to raise a child. And I want to talk more in a future episode about the Adolescence series, talk a lot about masculinity as well, and I've got some ideas of how I want to do that too. But the thing from that interview that I saw of Stephen Graham is that, especially in Western culture, we have become a lot more independent and a lot more individual in the way that we do things. We don't always feel like we need that social interaction. I know myself, it's been very easy for me in the past to find social connection through my phone, through the internet, rather than leaving my house and meeting people in person. But one of the big things that I have found over the past couple of years in particular is that for my health, for my well-being, meeting people in person has become so valuable rather than simply talking to people online. And it reminded me of that phrase, "Takes a village to raise a child." I think it takes a village to raise anyone. For all of us to learn, we have to have a community around us. Ultimately, as human beings, we are social animals. If we go back to our Neanderthalic ancestors, if you weren't part of a community, your chances of survival dropped. And we still carry a lot of those traits today. But the way that we see community has perhaps changed. But I feel within myself so much more positive. I feel like my well-being is so much better taken care of when I am seeing people in person and in the flesh, not just through a lens, not just through a screen. And I know this might be ironic because I'm not saying this to you in person. You're listening to this through an app, or maybe even you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube or a clip that I've put on Instagram. But this idea of community, this idea of seeing people and catching up with people in person, in the digital age that we live in, I think is something that we shouldn't forget. Because it makes those times, like celebrating a wedding for people that you care about, like trying to progress in your career, and like trying to maybe set yourself different challenges in fitness or learn new skills. In order to learn new skills, you have to be part of a community. You have to learn from somebody. And yeah, finding those communities can be incredibly powerful. So for you at home listening, or wherever you may be, if you don't feel like you're part of a community at this moment in time, first of all, that's okay. Because maybe you haven't been in a place that allows you to want to see, or enables you, should I say, not allows you. You haven't been in a place that enables you to find your community. But I would highly encourage you to try and find that community, because I know through my own personal experiences that finding different communities, or even just finding and having one community, can make such a big difference on the days that are more challenging and the times that you need that extra support. Because as much as it's great to be able to celebrate your own successes, I think it's also great to be able to lean on other people, to celebrate their successes, and for them to be able to celebrate your successes at the same time. I really wasn't sure how this episode was going to go and where it was going to take me, but I hope that has been valuable for anybody that has been listening. Like I say, this past week to 10 days has been a very good reminder of how powerful a community can be. And I hope that, like I say, if you're listening to this right now, or if you're watching this, that you can find community and you can find people that support you as well, but that you can also support other people. Because as much as it's lovely to have people praising you and celebrating your successes, I think there's a lot of joy to be found in celebrating other people's successes, as my experience at my best friend's wedding a few weekends ago was. There is so much joy in celebrating what other people have been able to do and what other people have been able to achieve. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and as always, if you have any comments, I would love to hear them. So either comment on the platform you're listening to this, or drop me a private message. I'm more than happy to receive any feedback or just hear your thoughts on the episodes that I'm recording. My name is Tom Regan, and this is the Training Tom podcast.
Thank you.